our guy Dwayne Coleman. Shout out to Dwayne. He said, "I want to ask y'all. They want LeBron to retire so bad, but who's going to be the face of the league after LeBron retire? We don't know who. I
We don't.
mean,
We're searching. We're fishing like
and
hell.
plus, they want to make Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA, but he's made it clear he doesn't want to be that. We don't know about with Ja Morant because of obviously
Off the field stuff.
Off the
but
court
that's
stuff.
the thing. But that's the thing. You don't know. At least when Michael left, you had a super big star who was in the entertainment capital of the world in the form of Shaquille O'Neal. You had Kobe, who was, one of the best wingmen in the league at that point in time. You had an Allen Iverson. You had an Allen. You had a Tim Duncan. You had megastars that you didn't have to depend on one face of the league. You had so many megastars that you could, put the camera on either one of them and you could sell tickets. There's not that one megastar that I'm going to go broke in order to take my girlfriend in order to see. I don't have one, by the way, but that's what people are going to say. I don't have that one guy that I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to go out here and take out a big old loan. I'm going to take my girlfriend to see courtside seat tickets in order to see this person. There's not that one guy that you just have to see. And I think the league is missing that. And like I said, they're going to milk the LeBron train for as long as they can. I think that in the minute that he retires, it's going to be the biggest probably send-off in the world. It's going to be bigger probably than Michael Jordan's because I believe he's going to have a true farewell tour. But you don't have that one guy that everybody is going to say, or a bunch of guys like you had in the early 2000s that everybody is going. There's so many questions around it. There's so many questions around Tyrese Halliburton. There's so many questions around SGA. There's so many questions around Jokic. There's so many questions around all of these players, including Anthony Edwards, that you just don't know who that next face is going to be. And so with that going on, with the ratings going on, with these super mega contracts, and I don't think we've mentioned this, how the NBA is being freaking covered now by these major media news networks. They're not covered the way they once were.
I don't think they're doing a good job, Champ.
No.
If I'm gonna be factual, look, I'm sorry, I don't want to bring them up, but when I listen to certain analysts, like particularly ESPN's Kendrick Perkins, like when it comes to like the basketball takes that he gives, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just not good. And plus, we've talked about this before with Stephen A. Smith and the integrity part. I mean, there's just not enough coverage. And we've talked about how ESPN, how at one point it used to be there, but nowadays it's just declined.
Yes. The way that sports is covered as far as the NFL, you don't have to bring drama into it. You don't have to bring drama. There's enough drama for it to go around just on the field. And the way that, if you look at the way that the WNBA is covered, that's exactly the way they're covering the NBA at this point. Yesterday, we had the finals going on, and we talked about this on Tuesday on your pod, PSP. Remember how, Stephen A. was talking about the crime in Memphis, and we have the NBA finals going on. We have the Giannis, watch going on. We have all of this stuff going on as far as free agency is going on. You have these big trades that are going on. And the main thing that you're talking about is crime in Memphis. The way that the game has been covered as far as the old school guys and transition to the new school guys. When you thought about Ahmad Rashad, when you thought about Stuart Scott, when you thought about Marv Albert, they were strictly basketball analysts. You knew you were going to get a story. You knew who was the MVP, who was the leading MVP candidate coming into the season. You knew who was the leading Rookie of the Year candidate. You had Rookie of the Year watches. You had, Comeback Player of the Year watches. You had Most Improved Player watches for the Sixth Man of the Year. The way that the sports networks are covering the NBA right about now, they're trying to infuse as much drama as they can into it. And unlike the other sports, it's like, no, that's not what we want to see. We want to
Right.
see you cover the NBA and the W, by the way, and the WNBA, like you cover the NFL. We want to see sports storylines. We want to see who's competing for the awards, who's the team to watch. And unfortunately, they're not covering it like that anymore. They're covering it, trying to make it like the Real World or the Housewives of Atlanta at this point. And that's what's turning off a lot of hardcore fans like myself. And I think that's another contribution to why Jeanie Buss may have sold the team, because they're not covering the NBA the way they were doing it back 20 years ago.
Yeah, not only that, champ, and we talked about it with the WNBA. At some point in time, it can't always just be about controversy. Not saying that controversy doesn't sell, but if you continuously look at just pay attention to controversy, yet disregard the talent in the game, how is that going to contribute the brand of basketball? And with Stephen, and perhaps, champ, you mentioned a stat about the ratings from game one between Indiana and Oklahoma City. The most, the lowest?
Yes, the lowest since 1988, since they started keeping track of the ratings.
Isn't that an indication of how ESPN and other networks are covering it? Because it can't just be about small markets. Okay. Even, and we talked about Indiana, that, as you mentioned, that is a diehard basketball state. Them and North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, you have something exciting to talk about, because because with Oklahoma, of course, you mentioned the Seattle Supersonics franchise. Seattle fans want to see Oklahoma City lose so that they can crown themselves Seattle the real team, not Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. But when you think of Oklahoma City, even though it's not a big market itself, and you really think more of it's football because Oklahoma, Texas, the OU Sooners, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but still something to look forward to. We could talk about more about Sam Presti, one of the brightest young executives. I mean, look at the job, the accumulation of picks that he's had throughout his career, and what he's going to do even more. You talked about the dynasty, the potential dynasty with all those draft picks he's accumulated. We could talk about all those things, but it seems to me, champ, the way that media and sports have covered it is just a damn shame. And I'm glad that Tuesday we talked more about the WNBA. We talked about Defisha Collier, about her winning the MVP. The season ended today. She should win the MVP, WNBA MVP, in my opinion. We did talk about Caitlin Clark, her having that monster game, that 32-point game against the New York Liberty, giving the New York Liberty their first loss. And by the way, the New York Liberty lost to a damn good team last night in the Phoenix Mercury, who will face the Chicago Sky tomorrow afternoon. It's on ABC. Please go check it out. But unfortunately, but again, champ, it's a shame that you and I mean, even though, look, I got my over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I don't like bragging about that type of stuff. And we all know you doing your thing. Isn't it a damn shame that we are talking about this stuff, and instead of ESPN and other major networks not talking about this stuff? I mean, it's a complete disservice.
Yes, it is. And I think that's why the NBA wanted to go back to NBC, so that they could get those storylines. Remember, look, I remember the NBA on NBC before every single game. I'm not talking about just the NBA finals. Before every single game, even in the regular season, Bob Costas told you a WWE-like build-up story right before the game. Bob Costas used to bring you in with those stories right before. If y'all don't believe it, to all the non-believers out there, in the great words of Stan Lee, the late great Stan Lee, non-believers, please go and watch the old school NBA on NBC. Before each and every single game, Bob Costas had a story about the game, about the build-up. It was almost WWE-esque. It was a build-up. And I'm talking about, this is a regular season game. Now, when the playoff came, he turned it up.
And Ahmad Rashad, especially with them interviews that he got.
Yes. Well, I love this game. Look, basketball was about basketball back then. I love this game. Inside stuff. That was what it was about. And I think that was, and not to mention another thing that's working against the NBA right now You just took away your star flagship show, the NBA on TNT. You just took away your best show that everybody was paying attention to. And how ironic, it had another big time show had to leave the Turner networks. So you just lost your big time show who was concentrated on basketball. They might sprinkle a little drama here and there because drama sells in sports, but they kept it about basketball. So the thing is, it is the same that content creators like myself, like you, like Brandon from the Block, like BRF, like Flash, like Hot Take Kenny, all Casual. Of those, and especially Casual, the subject matter expert. I mean,
if you want to know basketball, talk to him, especially X's and O's, all those other things. You better go check out Casual because he does a hell of a job. And same thing with Luis, because when it comes to wrestling, I want to listen to what Luis has to say regarding wrestling stuff. But again, man, it's one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast stuff, because again, I'm tired of hearing the same thing over and over again from other media. When we talk about this,
in the GOAT debate, the GOAT debate, every time you look around, the GOAT debate is always, we're going to talk about the GOAT debate. We just talked about this shit. Excuse me. We just talked about this.
It's all good.
We just talked about this stuff last week. How many GOAT conversations are you going to have in one lifetime?
Because to them, I think they've gotten complacent. That's what it seems to me, champ. The more the money that they're making, the more of the type of stuff that they're doing, they've gotten complacent and they've lost touch with the fans, because us fans, we just want to talk about the sport, the game, and everything else. I mean, does controversy work from time to time? Sure, but not all the time. We want to hear something that's refreshing. I mean, shit, we don't want to eat the same meal over and over again. I mean, champ, I understand you on your weight loss health regimen. Sally, you gonna tell me one time you're not gonna have a good piece of chicken with some mashed potatoes and some mac and cheese on the side and some collard greens? No, you want to have that.
It's chicken and rice now, but we ain't gonna go ahead. It's chicken and rice, not necessarily salads right about now. But you have to your point, man, joke or no joke, that's what it is. And my thing is this, with these GOAT debates, him always beefing with LeBron, it gets old. And the thing you have to ask yourself another thing you have to ask yourself is this: did the NBA and a lot of these sports shows, well, I will say just the NBA, because when you hear football players talk about each other, it's glowingly, it's done. It is like crazy. It's like they are unbiased. Even Tom Brady, when he's talking about his Patriots, when he's talking about his Raiders, is very, very unbiased. Do you think that having the former NBA players, as far as have being commentators, do you think that has become a double-edged sword as well?
I think so. Because, I mean, to let go of Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet Smith, Shaq, even though sometimes I may not always agree with their takes, but to hear their perspective, considering the fact that they're proven commodities, two of them are Hall of Famers, Charles Barkley and Shaq, and sometimes they give constructive criticism. I think but why let them go? Is it because the players? Because again, a lot of times, a lot of the younger players don't like hearing what Shaq and Chuck particularly have to say.
It's not what you want to hear; it's what you need.
What you need to hear.
It's like, look, people outside in TV land, listen. It's not what you want to hear all the time; it's what you need to hear. And if I have somebody like Shaq telling me, "Hey, man, you got to step up your game," it's Shaq. He had to step up his game. Although he went to the finals, although he won the scoring title, although he was an MVP candidate, he knows how to win and he knows how to lose. You can't be so sensitive to the fact that if someone scratch you, then, bugs fly off you. Don't be so sensitive. If somebody who has the ability of a Shaquille O'Neal, the ability of a Charles Barkley, and the championship pedigree of the Kenny the Jet Smith, then listen. I understand y'all making millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, But guess what? You can learn something still. And it's Shaq. Not only can he teach you something in basketball, he can teach you a few things in business. I learned this from my father. Don't let your ego be so big that you miss out on an opportunity to learn something. Because somebody could be telling you something simple to see how you're going to respond. And then they could be hiding the recipe to make you billions of dollars in their back pocket. But because you didn't respond to that first lesson, well, they're like, nah, I ain't going to deal with that. Because you didn't listen to the first constructive criticism. Don't take advice from anybody. Don't take criticism to people who you wouldn't take advice from. In order to be great, you mean to tell me you wouldn't take advice from Shaq? If you don't take advice from Shaq on how to be a great basketball player, on how to win, on how to come back from being a finals loser to Hakeem Olajuwon to becoming a 4-time champion and a league MVP and to win a finals MVP 3 straight times, if you don't listen to that, and he did it while he was out of shape. He wasn't even in shape his entire career, and he did that.
That should tell you something.
That should tell you everything you need to know. I did it, and I wasn't even at my best. I wasn't even at my absolute premium, and I still went out there and dominated every single thing.
And that's yeah. And Kobe even got on Shaq all the time for being fat and out of shape, but Shaq still delivered. But the thing is, do I think players nowadays are too sensitive? Yes, because when they hear the criticism from guys like Shaquille O'Neal, from Charles Barkley, Hall of Famers themselves, they feel like, why are you picking on them and stuff like that? But at the same time, they're old school. They come from a different perspective. They don't come from the same era as a lot of the younger players are. They know what it takes and the requirements to be great. So if you don't listen to them, then essentially, what does that say about you? And Pitch Grid Pod said Shaq is the perfect example of how to dominate, even if he wasn't perfect. Grid mindset. And BRF, shout out to the great BRF. There hasn't been one truly stepped up to the throne. Shout out, guys. Sorry I couldn't come on. Be there next week, though. But regarding who's going to be the shout out to BRF. But regarding the face of the NBA champ, it's still up in the air. We don't know exactly who. I think it still could be Luka because of his swagger, his personality. I mean, and there are a lot of great basketball players, but we don't know who. Even Ant. A lot of people want Ant to be the face of the NBA because they talk about Kobe and Michael, and they can put him in these comparisons. And doesn't want to be mentioned with those guys. He doesn't want to be the face of the NBA. And Ja, again, the off the court situations. Okay, I can understand that. Wemby, and I like Wemby a lot, but we got to wait and see. Only time will tell.